the famous bridge between Copenhagen in Denmark and the city in Sweden of Malmö. When that project was conceived and built in the mid-1990s, it wasn't because Denmark and Sweden had a traffic management problem. It was because they wanted to create a hub, an innovation, economic developed area for the two countries. In 20 years, this circle, this geography between Malmö and Copenhagen generates 27% of both nations' GDP combined. So it wasn't about cars, it was about progress, economic progress and social welfare. Well, it is. It's the most disruptive technology that is exerting massive effect in the world right now. Although artificial intelligence has been developed for the last 60 years, it is now when we see its potentiality and also what is it that, as a civilization, we need to look out for in terms of how transformational we want it to be, but also how we want to preserve our culture and the way we want to live in the future. So it's and especially since September 22nd, when a massive large language model was put in the world in the hands of normal people, the governments are very, very concerned as to how to deal with it. The Global Partnership on AI is the AI agency founded by the G7 and G20 countries, and is a member country organization with 29 nations and about 150 AI scientists from these nations and other nations working together to actually make sure that AI is put in the world the way we need it. So it's interesting the example that you mentioned with radiology, because one of the greatest opportunities of developing nations is that if you bring artificial intelligence to solve problems, for example, image diagnosis, you don't have the barriers that you find in developed nations as to, if I bring this machine that is going to not only detect cancer markers in blood, but will draw me a picture of the evolution of this cancer so that we can create a therapy, basically predicting the future evolution, is not taking anybody's job, which is what is mentally stopping many AI solutions in developed nations. If I automatize this, or if I bring this detection tag, somebody's going to lose a job. In developing nations, you need solutions for very specific problems, and if technology is going to come and help, you immediately deploy it. So this will create probably a future in which countries in development that pioneered many innovative technologies will become the first case studies of how that thing actually works. It's a massive opportunity. Mobile payments, Africa has about 300 million mobile payment accounts. Is the largest leading continent with mobile payments because it was deployed in Africa as a solution 20 years ago. I remember being at Nokia, and Nokia was one of the first handset manufacturers that was developing mobile payment solutions. And now is leading beyond developed nations. So for me, AI and other technologies, they are the new infrastructure of progress. I used to work in the financial industries when I was a young person, and I worked in infrastructure development, infrastructure finance, financing bridges and roads and energy projects around the world. You mentioned Iberdrola, a Spanish energy company. That was one of the companies I did work for. And when you build infrastructure, you're not really addressing the core problem. For example, the famous bridge between Copenhagen in Denmark and the city in Sweden of Malmö. When that project was conceived and built in the mid-1990s, it wasn't because Denmark and Sweden had a traffic management problem. It was because they wanted to create a hub, an innovation, economic developed area for the two countries. In 20 years, this circle, this geography between Malmö and Copenhagen generates 27% of both nations' GDP combined. So it wasn't about cars, it was about progress, economic progress and social welfare. This is what we need to ask of technology today, which is the new infrastructure. Is it bringing economic progress? Is it bringing social equality? Is it bringing a better life for our people? Mm-hmm. And that is the bottom line of anything that we do with tech. Well, governments have the responsibility of funding whatever initiatives is going to create prosperity, more employment, innovation. That's obviously has been the strategy in the European Union, for example. But beyond that, and this is what it's emerging now, as it was extremely rightly pointed out, we now find ourselves at an inflection point as humanity in which we are almost touching certain aspects of science as gods. You know, for example, molecular developments, you know, being able to very quickly with AI build the molecular structure of DNA. This is something that AlphaFold did in 2018. All of a sudden, we see ourselves almost recreating nature, something that was unthinkable 100 years ago. And it's at this moment in which ethics, equity, is when we start thinking what kind of world we want to build. We cannot leave anyone behind. We need to make a life that is fit for humans to live rather than an alienating life. So all of the products and solutions that are emerging in, for example, with artificial intelligence, they have to have the basis of it's really demonstrating that is alleviating a lot of hardships. For example, artificial intelligence in agriculture is completely transforming how arable land is being treated, because every year, due to climate change, but also very bad agricultural practices, arable land decreases. So we have less land to grow food for a much larger humanity of billions. And when you bring AI to the fields, immediately it has to demonstrate that you work with less effort, you have better yields for your crop. So it has to be monitoring that it brings an optimization, but also that it's something scalable that everybody else can use, that is not a bespoke project brought by a university to a small farmer. No, this is really a way to create an industry and a transformative movement that can become a case study and something deployable with scalability. In the GPA, when I joined, I started leading AI in agriculture and livestock farming because it's one of the areas that is most radically going to change, but also healthcare. Also, what kind of cities are we building? Smart cities is a concept that began in 2000. I remember I was invited to come to Eindhoven in Holland. Eindhoven is one of the super smart cities where they have innovated the most. And at the beginning was about putting internet on the streets, and then it was about sensorizing car parks, and then bringing electric bicycles. But today, it's about waste management, oxygen levels, fighting pollution, fighting mental health issues of people living in metropolis of more than 10, 15, 20 million people. So it's not about electric bicycles anymore. And I think, and I'm very excited that Doha is a footprint for anything you want to build on it, because it's a city of the future. It's got the infrastructure, it's got the blank page to start dreaming up how the cities in the future should be. how technology can come and create an impact in this. And emerging markets are the test bed of dreams.
That's so,
Because you can build everything brand new on top of it.
that's so true.